I want to tell you a story. A story about a boy who was given away the day he was born. His own parents looked at him and said, "We cannot keep this child." He grew up wondering why he was not enough. He dropped out of college. He slept on floors. He collected empty bottles just to buy food. But this same boy went on to build one of the most powerful companies in the history of the world. He changed the way we listen to music. He changed the way we use phones. He changed the way we think about technology and design and beauty. His name was Steve Jobs, and his story will teach you that rejection is not the end. It is the beginning. Chapter 1. The Boy Nobody Wanted. Steve Jobs was born on February 24, 1955, in San Francisco, California. His biological parents were two young university students. They were not married. They could not raise a child. So they made a decision that would shape the rest of his life. They gave him away. A couple named Paul and Clara Jobs adopted him. Paul was a mechanic. Clara was an accountant. They were simple, hard-working people. They did not have much money, but they gave Steve something money could never buy. They gave him love. They gave him belief. Paul Jobs had a small workshop in the family garage. He loved to fix things. He loved to build things with his hands. And every weekend, he brought little Steve into that garage. He showed him how to take things apart. He showed him how to put them back together. He taught him to care about every detail, even the parts nobody would ever see. "If you are a carpenter," Paul told him, "you do not use cheap wood for the back of a cabinet, even though nobody will see it. You know it is there, and that's enough." Steve never forgot those words. They became the foundation of everything he built.
Chapter 2. The Misfit. Steve Jobs was not a normal student. He asked too many questions. He challenged his teachers. He refused to do homework he thought was pointless. One teacher called him a problem child. Other kids thought he was strange. But Steve did not care what they thought. He cared about what was true. He cared about what was possible. When he finished high school, his parents saved every dollar they had to send him to Reed College in Oregon. It was an expensive school. Steve knew his parents could not afford it. After just 6 months, he made a painful decision. He dropped out. But he did not leave the campus. He stayed. He slept on the floors of friends' rooms. He returned empty Coke bottles for 5 cents each to buy food. He walked 7 miles every Sunday to get one good free meal at a Hare Krishna temple. And he did something that seemed pointless at the time. He sat in on a calligraphy class. He learned about beautiful letters, about the space between words, about the art of design. He had no idea why he was doing it. He just followed his curiosity. 10 years later, when he designed the first Macintosh computer, he remembered that class. He gave the Mac beautiful fonts. No other computer had them, and it changed the entire industry. You cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. Chapter 3. The Garage. In 1976, Steve Jobs was 21 years old. He had no degree, he had no money, he had no office, but he had an idea. And he had a friend named Steve Wozniak. Wozniak was a genius engineer. He could build circuits the way poets write verses. Jobs could not build like Wozniak, but Jobs could see what Wozniak could not. He could see the future. Jobs looked at Wozniak's homemade computer and said, "This is not just a hobby project. This could change the world. Let us start a company." They started Apple Computer in the Jobs family garage. Steve sold his Volkswagen van. Wozniak sold his scientific calculator. Together, they had $1,300. Their first product, the Apple I, was just a circuit board. No case, no screen, no keyboard. But people bought it. Then came the Apple II. It was one of the first personal computers everyday people could use. It was fast, it was friendly, it was beautiful. Within 4 years, Apple was worth more than $1 billion. Steve Jobs was 25 years old. He was on the cover of magazines. He was called a genius, a visionary, the future of technology. Everything was going right, and then everything went wrong.
Chapter 4. Fired. As Apple grew bigger, the board of directors brought in a new CEO named John Sculley. Jobs had recruited Sculley himself, asking him one famous question: do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life, or do you want to come with me and change the world? Sculley came. But soon, Jobs and Sculley disagreed on almost everything. Jobs wanted to take risks, Sculley wanted to play it safe. Jobs wanted perfection, Sculley wanted profit. In 1985, the board of directors made their choice. They sided with Sculley. And Steve Jobs, the man who had started Apple in his garage, the man who had built it from nothing, was fired from his own company. He was 30 years old, and the thing he had built, the thing he loved most, was taken from him. "I was a very public failure," Steve said later. "I even thought about running away from Silicon Valley. But something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did. I had been rejected, but I had not changed. I was still me." So he did not run away. He started over. Chapter 5. The Wilderness Years. Most people would have stopped. Most people would have taken their money and disappeared. But Steve Jobs was not most people. He started a new computer company called Next. People laughed. They said he was finished. They said Apple had been a lucky accident. Then he did something unexpected. He bought a small animation studio from George Lucas for $10 million. Nobody understood why. The studio had never made a full movie. It had 44 employees and a dream. That studio was called Pixar. For years, Next struggled. The computers were too expensive. Sales were low. Critics said Jobs had lost his touch. But Steve kept working. He kept pushing. He kept believing that quality would win in the end. And at Pixar, something magical was happening. A team of artists and engineers were creating something the world had never seen. In 1995, they released Toy Story, the first fully computer-animated feature film in history. It was a massive hit. Children loved it. Adults loved it. Critics loved it. Pixar went public, and overnight, Steve Jobs became a billionaire, not because of computers, because of a cartoon cowboy and a plastic astronaut. Sometimes the path forward is not the path you planned. Chapter 6. The Return. By 1997, Apple was dying. Sales were falling, products were boring. The company Steve had built in his garage was 90 days away from bankruptcy. The board made a desperate decision. They called Steve Jobs. He came back, not with anger, not with revenge. He came back with focus. His first move shocked everyone. He cut 70% of Apple's products, hundreds of projects gone, thousands of ideas removed. "Deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do," he said. Then he started building. He built the iMac, a computer that was colorful and fun and different from anything else on the market. People loved it. Then he built the iPod and changed how the world listened to music. Then he built iTunes and changed how the world bought music. Then he opened the Apple Store and changed how the world shopped for technology. And then in 2007, he walked onto a stage in San Francisco and held up a small device. "Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone," he said. It was the iPhone, and nothing was ever the same again. The man they had fired had come back and built the most valuable company on earth. Chapter 7. The Final Chapter. In 2003, Steve Jobs received news that no one ever wants to hear.
He had pancreatic cancer. The doctors told him to prepare. His time might be short. But Steve fought. He had surgery. He kept working. He kept creating. He introduced the iPad. He built iCloud. He planned new products years into the future, even when he knew he might not be there to see them. He grew thinner. He grew weaker, but his mind never stopped. His vision never faded. On October 5, 2011, Steve Jobs passed away at the age of 56. The world mourned. People left flowers and candles outside Apple stores around the globe. Presidents, artists, engineers, and ordinary people all said the same thing. He changed our lives. His last words, according to his sister, were simple. He looked at his family, he looked past them, and he said, "Oh wow, oh wow, oh wow." Even at the very end, Steve Jobs was still seeing something beautiful that no one else could see.
Chapter 8. Why this story matters to you. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you did not belong? Like the world did not have a place for you? Steve Jobs felt that too. He was given away at birth. He was called a problem child. He was fired from the company he created. But he did not let those moments define him. He let them redirect him. Have you ever failed at something important? Have you ever lost something you worked hard to build? Steve lost Apple. He lost his health. He lost years of his life to struggle and doubt. But every time he fell, he got back up. Not because he was special, because he refused to stop. Here is what Steve Jobs teaches us. Your past does not decide your future. The people who reject you do not get to write your story, and the dots that seem random and meaningless right now will connect later in ways you cannot imagine. So follow your curiosity, even when it seems pointless. Keep your standards high, even when nobody is watching. And when life pushes you down, do not stay down. Start again, build again, create again. Steve did not change the world because he was the smartest person in the room. He changed the world because he cared the most. He cared about every pixel, every curve, every word, every experience. He believed that ordinary people deserve extraordinary tools. What do you care about that much? What would you build if you were not afraid of failing? What would you try if you knew that failure was just a chapter, not the ending? Think about that. Chapter 9. Your Story. Steve Jobs stood on a stage at Stanford in 2005 and told a room full of young graduates 3 simple stories. He told them about connecting the dots. He told them about love and loss. And he told them about death. And then he said something that still echoes across time. Your time is limited. Do not waste it living someone else's life. Do not be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Do not let the noise of other people's opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. That's the message Steve left for all of us. Not just for tech people, not just for business people, for everyone, for you. You do not need to start a billion-dollar company. You do not need to invent the next iPhone. You just need to start. Start with what you have. Start where you are. Start before you're ready. Because the people who change the world are not the ones who wait for permission. They're the ones who begin. Your story is not over. The best chapters have not been written yet. I'll see you in the next video.